Hello, and welcome to Prairie Pulse. Coming up a little bit later in the show, we'll profile Akeley, Minnesota wood sculptor Paul Albright. But first, joining me now is the development director for an organization that does a lot of good in Fargo-Moorhead, the CCRI Incorporated, the Creative Care for Reaching Independence, located, as I said, in Moorhead, Minnesota. Jody Hudson. Jody, thanks for joining us
Thanks
today.
for having me.
As we get started, we always ask our guests, tell the folks a little bit about yourself, your background, maybe where you're originally from.
Perfect. Well, I'm originally from Moorhead, Minnesota. I graduated from Moorhead High School. I am a SPUD, and I went to college at then Moorhead State University, and my husband and I and our 3 children live in Fargo now.
Wow, okay. So how did you get involved in this field?
Well, I took a job because I needed insurance right before we got married, and I was a job coach to people with disabilities. And that is not what I majored in college, but I tried something different and it stuck. So what started out as a very part-time thing, 17 years later, I'm still working with people with disabilities.
So what is CCRI?
CCRI is a nonprofit, and we provide support services to people with disabilities. We pride ourselves on being person-centered, so none of our services are alike. We cater to a person's needs, and not everybody's needs are exactly the same. So we have 24-hour services where CCRI is the primary caregiver. We have hourly services where we work closely with people that live in their own homes and maybe need a little bit of help, or with families, and work closely with kids in schools, their teachers. We also have a mental health program as well.
So a number of programs, but let's maybe go from the beginning. How and when was it funded? Founded, not funded. How was it founded?
We will be celebrating our 40th anniversary this February, and CCRI was founded by a group of parents that all had children with developmental disabilities 40 years ago. They wanted more for their children than was offered at the time. So 40 years ago, services looked a lot different for people with disabilities than they did now. And this group of parents wanted a place where their sons and daughters could be in the community and be active participants in the community.
Well, since I tried to work the question in, how is it funded?
We are funded by state and federal dollars, and that money provides the care, strictly the care, nothing extra. And so that's where my job comes in, is I fundraise for all the extras that make life wonderful. So I would say a large percentage, 90+% of the folks that we support live at or below the poverty level. They do get money, federal dollars, but it's like $97 a month. And you can't do much out in the community for $97. So that's where we come in and raise dollars so people can get out and enjoy the community.
Have you seen the needs in the community grow over the years for this service?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, when I first started 17 years ago at CCRI, we had maybe 250 people that we supported, and now we are supporting over 400 people in the community. So the need, and our mental health program is also expanding, as well as our in-home support services.
Now, is CCRI unique to this area, or are there organizations like this all across the region?
There are organizations that provide the service, but we like to say that we are unique because we do put on a lot of different activities for our folks, and pride ourselves on wonderfully trained and compassionate caregivers. So you will see our folks out in the community quite a bit.
Well, you mentioned it. Can you talk about, about years ago and how there just weren't many services for this type of people with disabilities, and how it's changed and
Right.
what we have nowadays?
Well, I would say that everything was kind of institutionalized. So, people either lived in large settings. Nobody was living in their own homes throughout the community. There were large homes of a group home per se, and or they were hospitalized. And so now our homes have, the most people we have living in a home is 4 people, and they're tucked away nicely throughout the community. You would never know that they are a CCRI home. So that's another thing that I think we are unique in, is that we do get to know our neighbors, and we are wonderful neighbors in the community.
Well, what are your vital services that you provide?
24-hour care.
Yeah.
So that would be for children and adults that just can't or don't want to be living at home right now. So, you know, when my son or daughter graduate from high school, they'll go on to college and they'll go on their way. And so a lot of folks with disabilities, maybe that's just not their life plan. So they move in with CCRI and we become that caregiver. Moms and dads are super involved in their lives, but they're not the caretaker for them. And so it's kind of a win-win for the family and the person supported. We also provide nursing. So we have a full-time RN that works closely with our individuals, their doctors, and the families as well. So really, once they come to us, there are no worries for the families.
Well, let's talk about a couple of your different programs. You have a mental health services that you provide. Can you talk about that?
Certainly. Our mental health program is community-based. So we have mental health practitioners that go out in the community and they meet with individuals, and their goal is to get their life back on track, get the support that they need to be stable and to get back to work and to, you know, be successful. We also have aftercare in our mental health services where we have a nurse that goes in and works with those folks that have not been successful in a hospitalization type setting. So it's really one-to-one. She's in their home, she's working with them, building that connection, helping them with their doctor's appointments and psychiatry needs if need be. And that's also been really beneficial, and we've seen great progress.
Well, I think you also want to talk about your technology program. What's that about?
Well, it's called Independent by Design, and we're really proud of it. It started out with a grant through the Otto Brummer Foundation and the United Way of Cass Clay. And basically what we're finding is that there was a group of our folks that just were really overserved or underserved. So, you know, we had one gal that was receiving 24-hour services, but she didn't really need 24-hour services, but yet there wasn't the middle of the ground program. And so we started this working with a company out of Minneapolis called Syngistics, and it's fabulous. Basically, people are able to live on their own in an apartment, and they use technology to make them safe. So we have different sensors. They still are have a 24-hour person at their, if they need help, but technology. For example, if a medication box isn't opened at 1 o'clock, the sensor would go off to one of our caregivers who's scheduled 24 hours a day. They could call that apartment to say, hey, you forgot to take your medication. Okay, thank you. And that would be it. Or a sensor could be on a door. So maybe after 10 o'clock at night, the door opens, you'd call to say, hey, are you there? So you've got that 24-hour window where you've got someone making sure you're safe, but you're able to live independently.
That's interesting. What's the track record at CCRI?
Well, we are very proud of the work that we do. We have a long waiting list of families that would love to, you know, have our services. You know, we have something that we're really proud of working on is our turnover. So our senior leadership, I think I've been there 17 years. My executive director has been over 22 years. Nobody seems to leave. We all really like it.
Well, what are the plans for the future? I mean, what do you hope to do? And when I say you, with the organization, and what are the organizational goals
Our
for the future?
organization, we've just moved into a brand new building in Moorhead. We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary in June, actually 2-year, and it's a $3.7 million building, and it's a lovely, lovely place for our folks to come and to do different activities. People from the community helped us to build this, so we invite the community to come in and use some of our meeting rooms. Volunteers come and teach some activities, so we will continue to work closely with the community. Of this building, we have a funding gap right now of just a little over $300,000 that we want to pay off by next year. So that's one of our big goals, is to get that building paid off so we can continue to do great work.
So, as development director, is your job to find that type of money, or are you looking for money for the individuals and the programs, or is it all the above?
I get to do both. I get to do both. So we're closing out that capital campaign next year, and right now for 2016, we have a funding gap for our life enrichment program of just $7,080. So we're working on that too. But you know, all the extras that make life wonderful for the folks, that's what I get to find from the community. We have different events that we put on that are fabulous, and it's so wonderful to see the community come. We have a prom, and it started out from a woman who we were showing our daughter's prom pictures to, and I said, "Oh, have you ever gone to prom?" She never had. So we threw her a prom, and our CCRI prom has grown gangbusters, and when we moved into the new building, we had to have our staff put up a big closet for all of our prom dresses that are donated from the community. So we've had folks come in and volunteer to do hair and makeup, and it's fabulous.
Well, that's fantastic. What kinds of jobs do people with disabilities have, or what kinds can you train them for?
Well, a lot of the folks that we serve, you know, have all different types of jobs. We don't do any job training, but certainly there's of course janitorial work, there's some factory work, there's you know, daycares, you know, you name it. With the support provided, I think a person with a disability could do any job, quite honestly.
Okay. You talked about your funding level and or your funding sources, but individuals can make donations, or how can they do that?
They can go to our website, which is creativecare.org, and make an online donation. They can give me a call. I'd love to visit with them, give them a tour of our home, and share more about the great work we do.
Mm-hmm. If family members are interested in getting one of their family members involved with your organization, how do they go about that? Can you explain the details of how the process that takes?
Certainly. Once a family has decided that they do want to have support from a business like CCRI, they would contact their county case manager and sign up for funding through their county resources, and then they would contact CCRI.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the prom, but what are some of the events you hold with clients at CCRI?
Well, we have our Superhero 5K, which is every June, and that is pretty fabulous. It's fun to see the heroes that come out to support our folks, and the folks at the Fargo Marathon do such a great job of providing tennis shoes for our athletes, and they do train from the couch to the 5K, so we have really tried to work on fitness. So whether it's running in the CCRI 5K or the Fargo Marathon 5K, I think we had over 80 individuals run last year in the Fargo 5K. It's pretty fabulous. We also have a polar plunge that's coming up on Giving Hearts Day on February 9th.
What is the best part of your job as it related in terms of seeing clients be productive and succeed in life?
You know, I'm so lucky I've got to meet so many wonderful individuals, but I think it's that sense of when a person goes home, they love to be at home, and home is their CCRI home. So I get great joy in going over there and seeing people that are in very wonderful family type relationships with their roommates, with caregivers that truly care about them, and they're living their dreams. They are, you know, in different clubs, they have a job, they're, you know, have hobbies just like you and I do. So I get great satisfaction in seeing that.
Yeah. Well, I understand CCRI was voted one of the best workplaces in Minnesota.
2 years in a row.
Okay.
2 years in a row.
Tell us what makes it such a great place.
I would have to say it's our culture. And this award is something so special to us because they got the feedback. They sent out a survey to all of our staff. And so right now our staff is sitting at I think we have about 460 team members. And so they survey those team members, and that who has determined us 2 years in a row. So, you know, it's a flexible place to work. It's fun. It's a feel-good situation. You work hard, but the payoff is so rewarding.
Now, Now, how many employees work at CCRI?
Over 450.
400. Can you tell us about some of those great people that work there? You mentioned a couple, but yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. Our caregivers are the ones that are doing the hard work, truly. We have a wonderful, there's so many. We have a wonderful caregiver named Amber, for instance. And so Amber works at one of our homes in South Moorhead, and she loves art. David loves art, who she works with. And so she fosters his growth as an artist, and he's so proud of the things that he does. But it's not only art, you know, she'll take Brad, who loves politics, so she'll take him to different debates, or she'll take him to student council, or not student council, city council meetings, you know, just those things where people really give wonderful opportunities and look into people's hearts to find out, you know, what do you want to do, what do you desire, and to take it to the next level.
Well, you said you got an executive director, a development director, which you are, and you have probably some administrative staff. But those 400, are most of those caregivers that you're talking about? And how many? What's the ratio of caregiver to client?
Administration, we sit right around 40 people. The rest are all caregivers. They're out in the community. They're doing the great work. You know, depending on a client's need, it might be a 2-to-1 ratio where an individual needs 2 caregivers with them. It might be there's a 1-to-4 ratio. It really is based on the need of the person.
Okay. Well, without divulging any confidentiality, can you talk about some of the success stories? You mentioned Amber and her client, but there's got to be other success stories that you're proud of.
I have one that touches my heart. We have a CCRI talent show. And I would like to say that I know everybody that we support, but I don't. And so we were at this talent show, and there was an individual, and he was sitting down, and he was looking down, but he was surrounded by all this amazing artwork. And so I was blown away. So I introduced myself and took some pictures of his work and asked if I could share it. And certainly, yes, he was very shy. He didn't look up very much at me. And so I was able to make some phone calls and call this gentleman and said, John, would you like to meet with someone to talk about your art? Well, absolutely. So we bring John to the Arts Partnership here in Fargo. And John meets with Dana, who also was amazed at his beautiful artwork. And all of a sudden, things started to roll into place for John. And we were able to get a grant to get some of John's artwork framed. And so now John has had his work framed throughout the Fargo-Moorhead area. He's selling his work at street fairs, and now if you were to ask John about his work, he would sit up straight and he would tell you all about it and ask you, how does his art make you feel? So that's something that is so special to me, is John and his beautiful art.
Well, that is a great success story. Is the location you're in now, does that suit your needs for the future? I mean, for a long time, you think?
Yes, we have a wonderful board of directors, and they thought ahead. We dreamt about this building for a decade, and so a lot of heart and soul and thoughts went into it, and yes, we are able to grow there. It's a beautiful place.
Well, I didn't ask that. I didn't ask how you were governed. So now, tell me a little bit more about that. So I guess the executive director, you said you're a nonprofit. So is it a community board of directors or what?
Yep, it's a community board of directors. There are 12 wonderful leaders sitting on our board, and they do a fantastic job of being ambassadors for CCRI.
All right, so 12, and they're volunteer board?
Yep, volunteer board members.
So again, with the organization itself, and I said you've got goals, I mean, can you take on more clients? Are you at the level that you can support right now?
Well, how it works is if people get licensed, and so yes, we are able to take on as many as the state says that we can. So we are almost at capacity right now, but if more licenses come up, we would be able to.
Okay. All right. Well, so if people do want to get more information, want to donate, or just want to find out more, where can they go?
They can go to our website, creativecare.org, or give me a phone call, 331-2024.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for more. Akeley, Minnesota wood sculptor Paul Albright has made a full-time living out of his wonderful carvings of nature and animals. It's a profession he kind of stumbled into years ago. Here's a look at the process of how Paul makes his works of art.
This will be converted into looking like a log, so I'll be putting bark on here. I left this open for a couple of reasons. The other bears I'll drill holes and fasten those from the underside so they can take it out. And I left a little crossbar on there so if she ever wants to put a plant, like a fern or something, it'll look like a rotted old tree with something growing out of it. What you'll see here now is there are light areas inside, and rather than brushing it in or wire brushing it in, I just use this. And what it does is it gets in all the fine areas, and it puts almost a finish on it immediately. I would say more toward the unique. Every town has a wood carver in this area. I step it up just a little bit more than perhaps the others in terms of detail. Felt really fortunate that there are people that are interested in not only the animals but unique settings. On the wood projects, I use a chainsaw first through probably a good third of the project, and then I use a series of other power tools, kind of size down, sanders, and then hand carving tools depending upon the wood type there too. I send sketches out, and if it's something I'm not as familiar with or want a little more reference, I'll do like a clay model or a maquette. And I also let them know that I can show them examples of the drawings and small forms that I did prior to, and then show them the finished project so that they know what to expect. Because it's not going to be perfectly like this, or because you have to stay flexible. We have access to white cedar that stretches in this area, but mostly north of us, and it goes kind of over the Great Lakes type of area. And that seems to do best for what we have available here for longevity and durability. It's not the friendliest wood, it's not hardwood, but at the same time it has a fragile or flaking type of thing going on, so I use more power tools in that instance because it's just the tools that you have to use to get what you need to get to. I went to school for art and got my BS degree in art education and had taught for a few years, 4 or 5 years. And in the summertime, my brother-in-law asked if he had ever heard of this chainsaw art, and I really didn't. About 3 years later, I think just one had built in, someone else, his neighbor asked type of thing. And through those 2-3 summers, all of a sudden I had like 11 pieces about. And thought, well, if things don't work out teaching, I'll go that route. Well, should sometimes be careful what you say or wish for. I've had a lot of people come back for more, so that it should speak for itself. Even on average, maybe of those who, let's say, get something, have 3 of something that I've made. There are a few that don't have room for anymore. Nice problem, I guess. This is a clay maquette that I did, and the finished piece is nearly life-size, probably 2/3 to 3/4. The top half is black walnut, and the bottom half is copper. It's probably the 7th one I've probably done, somewhere in there. First one was really simple, and came up with the idea by reading a friend's book. It was a fantasy piece, and then the little people in the trees. And of course, 4 in the morning when the bad ideas come out, this was kind of an idea that worked. This is something I came up with that should remind people a little bit of a German artist, Escher. And he did do sculptures, but he never did this sort of dyad. So I did a sphere out of, from the cylindrical form of a log into a sphere. And then from there, I did this, I'd almost call it like a relief. So trying to maintain that really tight sphere look without getting too far from it. Watch it fall now. I realized after the whole thing's done, as they mentioned that, well, I would have paid a lot more for this, Of course, they don't tell you these things prior to or whatever. And let's face it, making a choice, whether you have money or not, it takes a person with a bit of imagination to order this, and they of course see what you've done before. They have something to go by, but it's a risk. They're taking a risk, and they know it. So it's been very fun to meet a lot of these risk takers.
Well, that's all we have on Prairie Post this week. And as always, thanks for watching.
Funding for Minnesota Legacy programs are provided by a grant from the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. And by the members of Prairie Public.